Hi all, Pak here, and I'm here to talk to you about net neutrality. And this is going to be kind of a US-centric video, because I don't really know the state of other places where the internet is, and it's going to be US and Canada-centric because I've had experiences in both those countries. So, net neutrality, first of all, to put a clear and open definition, is that a provider of internet cannot manipulate packet transit to prioritize data from one network over another. In other words, you cannot pay, say, Charter to prioritize traffic of, say, Netflix over, say, Amazon Prime. You cannot do that. Both companies have to have the equal and open access for their consumers to choose which product they want, and that product should be served in the same way, regardless of what is done. Okay, you cannot actually prioritize those packets. Keep that in mind. It is different about connection speed and packets, because net neutrality speaks specifically to routing of traffic. Okay, so I just read this Breitbart article that is going against net neutrality, which, what? Who? Oh my god. It's just like, it kind of blows my mind when I see someone saying this. Okay, so now in the United States, for the most part, the wire for phone lines is called common carrier. Okay, common carrier means that when you're providing a service, like phones and whatnot, that everyone here owns the wire technically. You know, can use the wire, I should say. It doesn't own, I should say, uses the wire. Now you have the incumbent companies that do that, or the ILECs, and you can look up all these terms later. You have the ILECs that do this. They are the ones that actually own the wire in the ground, have to repair it, do the work. But they have to provide equal opportunity to CLECs, or competing providers, to come in and use that wire. They even have to provide them space in their COs, which are basically big rooms, central offices, which are big rooms of racks of computers nowadays. But they had to provide you room to actually set up your own business and connect to that wire, because they are allowed an equal opportunity to provide services. Okay? So that's how common carrier works as far as phone lines. Now, cable, I'm not so certain of. Don't quote me on that, but I would assume that it runs along similar lines, that you'll have your resident services that actually put down the wire, and that to make it common carrier, you have to, again, have everyone having free access to that wire. Okay? Because otherwise, you're going to have so many wires running underground. You're going to have, a wire for Charter, a wire for Comcast, a wire for this. So to prevent, like, a ton of infrastructure just having to be installed everywhere for everyone, because, again, that outlay of money is big. I'm not going to lie to you. It is big. That outlay of money doesn't have to be everyone paying it out. And the government does supplement this. Okay? I currently work for a provider of, phone lines and whatnot. Okay? And the government has a policy here in the United States that if we build out certain areas, they will refund us the cost of that build out. So that way they can provide more open access to more areas. Now, is it a thankless job? Is it very expensive? Not really. Not really at the end of the day. You have to understand that the telecommunications business is one of the biggest industries going. Between cellular and wired connections, it's one of the biggest businesses going, and everyone has so much money sunk into it. Okay? And you have to understand that money comes from both sides. It comes from you, the consumer, and it comes from big business. We are actually partnered with one of the companies mentioned in the Breitbart article. I cannot tell you who buys, not partnered with, but they do rent a large amount of data from us. Okay, they rent a large amount of wiring from us, and that's how they improve their service to you. Net neutrality is not improving service to you. How they improve service is they put more physical wire under their control. They put their servers hooked to more physical wire to give you more access. Now, one falsehood that he puts in there is how wireless networks will drop your connection if you are not receiving data properly. This is a falsehood, okay, as to what net neutrality means. It is true that you will be dropped off the network, but that is not manipulating the packets sent to you. That is manipulating your connection to the network because you keep sending requests, but because of your weak connection, you're not receiving those requests, and so you keep pinging the server for more requests. This causes a drag on the system as it keeps having to answer your requests because, again, there is no such thing as multiprocessing. That does not exist. What really happens is it just switches very quickly from task to task. So if you have someone on the network that's constantly hitting you for data, you keep having to go back to them. Think of it like a lineup of people that are standing there looking to order food, okay? And everyone's ordering the food and then leaving, ordering the food and then leaving. Then you have this one guy who doesn't know what he wants. He keeps asking you, what is this for? You know, what is this food like? What is that food like? He keeps asking you questions, so you keep telling him what that food is. He's not listening to you, and he keeps asking the same questions. You know, if this one person keeps coming back over and over again, eventually you can tell him, look, buddy, wait over there until such time as you know what you want. That's the idea of dropping off a wireless network. It's basically saying to you, look, you've sent me tons of requests, you're not listening to me, I have to go because other people need to be served. That's the difference. That it is not prioritizing packets. It is straight up saying, look, you are impacting the network negatively on a whole for everybody. Net neutrality says that if net neutrality went away, this is what could happen. All right. Say Charter wants you to pay for their on-demand services. They, being the owner of the ISP, could, in fact, either partner with someone like Amazon Prime or just on their own deprioritize Netflix packets and simply make them slower so that their alternative seems better. I'll say that again. A company, any company, it doesn't matter who, could pay an internet service provider to tell you to slow down this traffic and speed up my traffic. That is net neutrality in a nutshell. The fact that no one can currently do that. No one can tell you that you are not allowed to see Netflix, YouTube, or Amazon Prime at the same bandwidth and speed that they can provide to you. You see, that is one of the biggest falsehoods in this article, is that it's the manipulation of traffic is not supposed to be something you're allowed to do. It's not supposed to be, okay? It is true that there are black boxes out there on networks that can actually affect network traffic, but if they are found, the reason they're called black boxes is because they're not supposed to be there. You as a consumer have the right to be served the service that you are requesting. If you get a 10 meg connection, that 10 meg connection is 10 megs. If they're affecting your internet poorly because of services that you're using, they are intentionally taking that service from you, and it is something you can action in a court of law because that is service that they need to provide to you. Okay, if you can prove that someone is blackboxing your connection, you can go after them, or could anyways, while the FCC had the rights over top of this, because you cannot do that. You cannot intentionally alter the service of internet. My good Lord, I can't even speak anymore. I'm so upset. You cannot alter how packets are routed place to place based on financial gain. You can't do that. It is why the internet became the way it is. The FCC protected it for years. The internet today would not be the way it is if they had not done that. If they had not stopped the control of that. Okay? It's one of those things where you need to understand that people will try and confuse you on this issue. People will try and say that it's about a number of different things. But in reality, net neutrality is about everyone being served at the same speed. Now, I've previously lived in Canada for 15 years. I lived in Canada. Now, to give you an idea of what happens when you give control over to a company on something as basic as bandwidth, what happens? Okay? Now, in Canada, there was a ruling finally that in order to be quote-unquote fair to providers and allow them to quote-unquote recoup costs, they were allowed to charge for your bandwidth. They were allowed to actually go ahead and make it so that if you want more bandwidth and more actual data per month, you had to pay more. Now the fees are getting outrageous up there. I mean, quite literally, if you want a decent connection, you're paying upwards of $200 a month if you are a heavy internet user. I'll say that again. $200 a month if you're a heavy internet user. You are paying so much to just have bandwidth. It's one of the reasons why, as a YouTuber, I didn't really post a lot of videos, because if I failed a connection, they are going to refund me for the time my video timed out, or the internet was lost midway through and corrupted the video that I was putting up. You know, they're not going to give me that time back. I can't post things as fast. I have to wait until my bandwidth comes back up for the month. Think about how you use your phone. Everyone's phone right now, because of the bandwidth crunch, they've allowed people to charge for how much data you send out. Think about how tight those are and how much money you're paying more every month just to have the same access you used to have. This is what they do. This is how they gouge you. This is how they take money from you, and this is how they screw you. Okay? And now what this means is, if you do not protect net neutrality, this means that they can go after the companies and screw you. They can go after Netflix and make them pay more to have internet access. So now not only is Netflix paying, a provider for their services, they now have to pay the ISP a bribe to keep their service fast. YouTube outlays their services. YouTube pays for the internet service. They pay for their pipe. They pay for their servers. They pay for all of that. Okay? That's how they provide a faster service. But now they're going to have to bribe the ISP to keep their service fast. That's what it amounts to. That's what it amounts to. The government in the United States is outlaying cash for any provider that wants to build out internet. They are outlaying cash and giving people money, saying, here, build out the internet for us. And to keep that internet free and open, you must support net neutrality. Otherwise, all this fiber in the world is not going to help you when suddenly some big business decide that you need to be served only in this one setting.